Today is a great day. It is 3 December 21 and we are releasing Blender 3, a new era of 3D creation. I've been there 21 years ago when we released Blender 2 at SIGGRAPH in Los Angeles. I was even there when Blender 1 was released, but that was only with 5 users in those days. And I can tell you this, Blender came a long way. And not only that, Blender is a ridiculous success. And this success is partially thanks to the massive support of the industry. But especially it is thanks to the millions of people who are using Blender every day in the most interesting ways. And to celebrate this massive diversity of what people are doing with the software, we collected 20 examples of people using software and talking about what it means for them to use Blender. Because for me, it always came down to this. Blender is, and Blender will forever be about people. Enjoy.
Blender is humble. It rewards your curiosity with more knowledge, motivating you to create with passion. It's also inspiring, becoming multiple ideas, places, characters, wherever and however you want, as well as genuine. It knows that everyone can be an artist on their own way, and ultimately, that's our story. I'm Louis, and thanks everyone on the community. 3.0!
Blender is our go-to software when it comes to digital design from start to finish.
We are independent designers from India. We have a background of product and visual design.
The point what makes Blender so interesting is we use it every single day but for multiple purposes.
We love making virtual product photography in Blender. We have created the mountain bike and the environment here. Blender gives us the power to produce shots that are difficult in the real world. Cycles, an awesome render engine, performs great on CPU and GPU, gives us realistic results fast. We could achieve any lighting we wanted and created a day and night shot of our mountain bike. Eevee was also used to create a quick animation here. We could get frames rendered in seconds.
The introduction of geometry nodes is a game changer for us. We used it to distribute the water droplets on this mango and it proves to be a great feature when it comes to food visuals. We have used procedural textures to design the shader for this mango slice. With procedural textures being so powerful and versatile, we decided to extend its uses to generate unique patterns which was used in our design product, a paper planter sleeve for home decor.
We love teaching what we learn and experiment and share our knowledge through online courses that features Blender as a design tool. Blender is not just a 3D tool. We have been seeing Blender evolve as a great tool for design. Usage of Blender in non-traditional ways excites us and we are always looking up at more ways to use Blender in our workflow.
We feel it's really the time to celebrate its diversity. Blender being an open source software, it has opened our world and given us the freedom to create. As everyone, we are excited for Blender 3.
Cheers!
Blender is a breath of fresh air. Blender came into my life when I felt like my career wasn't challenging anymore. I felt like I was working in a sausage factory using the same software for the last 20-something years, using pretty much the same tools. Blender was a revelation, first as a curiosity, a new toy, until it became a passion. So I left the big studios to work for a smaller one. As a CG supervisor, I suggested that we drop the industry standard software and move to Blender, a choice that we've never regretted. It wasn't about saving money. It was about getting the tools that would allow us to do the job the most efficient way possible. Blender opened a new way of working and thinking for us. New possibilities, and it keeps getting better and better. And that's because Blender is in a constant evolution. A new release every 4 months not just for bug fixes, but new features too. Blender adapts to the needs of their user. They include the latest technologies like VDB, Alembic, UDIMS, and USD. With Blender, you also get access to a huge community with that open source mindset of sharing knowledge, tips, and tricks. There's always someone to help you in the community. And you even get access to the developers. You can ask them questions directly. You can submit new ideas. You can send bug reports easily and follow what's going on with your report. That's all in the open. And they will sit and they will fix it most of the time in the next release. I'm telling you, in my career, I worked for many companies, big ones, the major studios, and right now where I work at Real by Fake, we have developed the best pipeline I've ever worked with in my entire career. We do stuff that we couldn't dream doing with other software. We use Blender on Hollywood feature films and series. Yeah, it's that good.
Hi Blender team, this is my office at Universidad de Artes Digitales in Guadalajara, Mexico. I like a lot because it's a lot of inspiring work from our students. This place inspires me all the time. They all do character development and animated short films in their career. Here's some of the amazing spaces where we can develop our creativity. This is my partner called Blue. Let me show you who I am. My name is Richard Christensen. I am a 3D artist in Exodo Animation Studios and a bachelor degree dean at university. Here are some of my projects as a freelance artist. I am really enjoying the process of learning Blender, using volumetric lighting and VDB clouds to get this kind of artistic environment. By trying and failing, one of the things I like about Blender is Eevee. That allowed me to get preview of my work in real time and achieve my goals. Blender is an opportunity that helps any artist to develop digitally. I think it's a compendium of several years of work that will help both 2D and 3D artists to develop freely forever.
We are Ara Animation Studio from Kazakhstan. We started our journey in animation with the kids animated series Sabi for a local TV channel. That's when we decided to try Blender for the first time in production. It was a good acquaintance. We dreamed about our own film. Having gained experience in animation, we decided to make our short film traditionally in 2D. But later, we realized that we didn't have enough strengths and resources for 15 minutes long 2D short film. This required a lot of time and good preparation. After all, there were only 10 of us. After studying and observing the Blender community, we realized that this is not only a 3D program, but a tool that allows us to create amazing ideas we always wanted. So it was decided to make the film in Blender. But the more deeply we studied Blender and see our new results, the more we realized how underestimated this tool was. After many attempts and mistakes, we are now getting stunning visuals and inspirational shots from our film. For which we are very grateful to the developers and the people of the Blender community, because Blender is 183 megabytes of opportunity. Rahmet.
Blender is 2007, seeing that children in your school class really want to make their own games and films, and stumbling across free software that allows you to make 3D models and animations using a USB stick in a classroom full of really old computers. 2011, working with students to make short animated films using software they can use at home for free, giving students their first taste of 3D animation, and then these students going on to work on films such as The Lion King and Avengers Infinity War. 2012, borrowing your school's CAD computer suite, putting it into a white transit van and taking it to some borrowed office space in London, where you set up, if just for 2 weeks, one of the largest Blender studios in the world, run entirely by school children. 2013, using 1,500 computers from UCL's research labs to help children render sheep. 2019, a scheme of work in English schools on the same level as learning Python and data science, running 33 studios over the last 10 years with 282 students. Blender is the first stepping stone on the path to working in the industry, and increasingly the whole path. And as Blender grows, so do we. We've been using the Blender video editor for 10 years. Cycles lets students experience industry-grade rendering. Eevee allows them to iterate many times, improving their films. GeoNodes have already had an impact. Blender is about digital democracy. It gives children the freedom to express themselves, to better understand a changing world, and the ability to shape their own futures.
Blender is obvious for an ambitious and independent production. Blender is on my t-shirt. My name is Romain Toumi, I'm 29. I used to work in the metallurgy industry and I'm now a self-taught VFX artist and VFX supervisor for the Nexus 6 web series. It almost took me a whole year to realize the single sequence intro shot for episode 7. For the rest, which took me an extra year, is available on YouTube and is produced by French Toast in France. It's a very ambitious project that spreads over several years, with sets, costumes, space battle, and of course, VFX. Blender naturally imposed itself on this project, as I am the only one in the studio to produce VFX. That's my desk. We recently invested in a new workstation. As I have been using Blender since 2.45, it's also an obvious choice, because the world pipeline must be fast and realized by a single person, with a great variety of VFX, a green screen, incrustation, cleaning, tracking, full CGI, explosions, from layout to compositing. Yes, compositing. So what could be better than a software that blends all that? It's in its name. Episode 7 contains 279 VFX shots, excluding the 2-minute intro shot. The Blender community is huge to find some help, especially from Jonas Holzman and Alexandre Labedad, to make my own Blender build with some features, like an integrated render list, horizontal panel for the compositing, Hello 2.4, an add-on that let me order food, le bouton rouge de la mort, and many more features. Anyways, it's a huge project that simply couldn't have been done without Blender, because I wouldn't have been able to do it without this ability to plan everything in one software, without this community, and without the fact that it's open source. It's just unbelievable what you can do with it and the opportunity it creates. So that's it, and goodbye from France.
So my weird niche is that I design magic tricks. It's a real job, don't laugh. Since I started learning Blender, I've been able to use it to design packaging for tricks, visualize and design magic books, build promotional artwork, create clever optical reveals, and even make huge multi-screen graphics for a real Las Vegas show. Plus, I've been teaching my kid Blender, just like my dad taught me Illustrator some 30 years ago. Jesus. I started using Blender for paid commercial projects back when I was pretty bad at Blender. I realized that I could fix any bad renders that I produced in exactly the same way as I've been fixing bad photographs in Photoshop for decades now. I work hard to get better every day, but I discovered that I don't have to be perfect at Blender to know absolutely everything in order to create something that my clients will love and that I can feel proud of. The thing is, creating a visual art is like magic. In magic, there's this invisible technical method that the audience never sees. The hole in the stage, the flap on the card, the hidden mirror. And then there's the effortless miracle that the audience does see. That's what Blender has been for me. Here in the shed, there's untold, unseen hours of watching tutorials, reading the documentation, experimenting, swearing when I can't figure it out, and then eventually fixing the renders in Photoshop. Then there's what the client sees. The beautiful final render that's better than anything that I could draw, paint, or photograph. All the nodes and subdivision modifiers are the trick, but that final piece is magic. I'm still not especially good at Blender, but its incredible flexibility has meant that I've been able to say yes to projects and opportunities that previously would have been a hard no. And when a client came to me recently with a brief to design a deck of playing cards with donuts on the back, well, there was only one choice. All that is why, for me, Blender is magic.
My name is Jared Owen, and I use Blender to show and explain how things work. I create 3D animated videos, and then I post these videos to my YouTube channel. Over the last several years, I've gained almost 2 million subscribers, which has allowed me to do this full time. My videos are made almost entirely in Blender, and yes, I even use the video sequence editor. I'm so glad that's getting some new features lately. Blender allows me to do 3 of my favorite things, which is animation, computer programming, and learning how things work. I like to take things apart, see what's on the inside, then I will 3D model it, animate it, and then put my voice to it, I've found that explaining things with visuals, especially 3D visuals, is very, very powerful. You can explain things that would otherwise be very difficult to understand. Now, sometimes my video topics, sometimes they're too big to take apart, or sometimes they don't even exist anymore. So my research involves looking at web pages, checking out books, watching documentaries, and even contacting experts. Over the years, I've had to get very creative about how I do my research. Now, I have a background in computer science, which means that I love to code. I love that you can use Python with Blender. There are some times when I need Blender to do something very specific, and sometimes I can write a script or an add-on to make that happen inside of Blender. I love that you can extend Blender's functionality using Python, and I love that I can integrate that into my workflow. Blender for me is a creative outlet. I can put whatever's inside my head, I can put that up on the screen, and then I can share that with the world. I'm looking forward to future releases of Blender, all the new features coming down the line, but I'm also looking forward to getting more involved in the Blender community.
For me, Blender is more than just a tool. For 14 years I've been an avid supporter of open source movement and open collaboration in general. There is just something very exciting in it. What really drives me is the question that what if the world was run by mainly the open source model? This is just how I feel. I just love supporting, and I also love others who support businesses that give their core product to people for free, and that still stay alive and even thrive in this crazy harsh world of billionaires and penniless. Those kinds of businesses are a glimpse of the world I would be proud to live in. But back to this real world. Beyond the philosophical aspects, Blender has developed to be a tool that is just sheer joy to use. Whether it is to press the playback on and acting the animation out by wiggling the rig in real time, or by using the fly navigation with gravity on jumping in your just modeled scene. There is just something truly fun in using this software. Bye bye!
Blender for me is really the road to freedom. I'm a 3D jewelry designer and artist from Germany. I discovered Blender when I was still a broke goldsmith apprentice, and it has really opened the doors for me to get into the 3D world. I design with it mostly for 3D printing, of course also some product visualizations or animations, but mainly for 3D printing. And it is a wonderful tool for this. You can create sculptures, jewelry design, which I'm doing mainly. And I also teach and share what I know through online tutorials. One of my biggest projects was recreating a castle that was completely cast in silver and then also in gold. It took me around 3 months to make the 3D file, and it took another 4 to produce the finished castle. And it is now a little luxurious piggy bank for Krugerrands, which are gold coins, obviously. Right now I'm working on an especially beautiful project, which is an engagement ring in the shape of a dragon. This is my favorite project of the whole year, because I love dragons. 3D printing makes such fine details possible. So Blender for me has really opened the doors to create with 3D printing and 3D jewelry. Thanks so much. This community is so awesome, and I'm so thankful for being a part of it.
Blender is a tool for medical physics research. I'm a medical physicist and I use Blender to research new ways to fight cancer using radiation therapy. One way we treat cancer in our department is with medical linear accelerators, like this one. This piece of equipment requires precise calibration to ensure that our patients receive the best treatment possible. One way Blender has helped in this area is generating synthetic data for training machine learning models. These machine learning models are used to automatically alert us when the calibration of the equipment is drifting away from optimal, and then physicists like me can recalibrate the linear accelerators. We use the Cycles render engine in Blender to generate fake X-ray images of scenarios where this medical linear accelerator is performing well and cases where it's drifting out of tolerance. By feeding this synthetic data into machine learning models, we were able to automatically work out when our equipment requires our attention. So it turns out that Cycles is just as good at tracking X-rays as it is rendering our Blender scenes. We've also used Blender to research a new method of treating skin cancers. We use photogrammetry to scan the region of the patient where their skin cancer is, and because we can use photos instead of a CT scanner, such as this one, it means we can perhaps reduce the radiation dose received by patients when they receive this kind of treatment. From our 3D photogrammetry models of the patient, we can generate a custom-made treatment applicator in Blender which can then be 3D printed for each of our patients. When I start a new research project, one of the first things I think about is how can Blender be used for this project? It's such an amazing and powerful piece of software and opens the door to innovations in medicine, physics, and science in general. Apart from being a great research tool, Blender is my creative outlet. It's what I do to unwind at the end of a busy day. It's just as useful in the work environment as it is an artistic tool. Blender is my tool for scientific innovation, and Blender is my tool for creative freedom.
To our storyboarding studio in Liège, Belgium, Blender feels like limitless. This year, we were faced with a whole new challenge, which was to storyboard a series entirely in Blender. That meant that we were in charge of the cameras, of moving the 3D characters around, and of course of doing the acting with grease pencil. In the end, just like Blender, this project felt like a community project because we all had to work together to create a pipeline that fit us properly. And Blender offered us this flexibility that allowed us, so when we had an idea, I want to add this to the program, can you do that for me? Can you help me with this? Or we go online to find a plugin that fit our needs. To us, it's basically the future of storyboarding because Blender has almost everything we need, and what we still don't have, we know that we will have someday in the future, very soon. I am really excited for any new project that would include 3D storyboarding that we could work on. Because as long as you have the animation within Blender, why not have the storyboard directly in Blender too?
For me, Blender is motion. I had an idea to make a fan commercial for some company. I chose one, decided on the direction and style, found some references and made the montage. The next stage was blocking. I created 2 models, placed them in the scenes and made simple animations. Then I filled the scenes and background and also applied textures and shaders. It remains only to adjust the light and to make render in cycles. 2 functions helped me a lot. Firstly, in one project I had several scenes at once, quickly switched between them and created linked objects. Secondly, on the timeline I could immediately see how animations from different scenes look together without the need to render them and send to editing software. For the next fan Tinder project I also chose Blender as the main 3D package. Whenever possible I transferred more tasks to the Blender. I like that I can install Blender on any working computers and don't worry about license and render some parts of the project. And that's what I got. the developers in the community for helping Blender to be so cool. And yes, I'm recording without pants.
Blender is my favorite painting program. As a digital painter, Blender first intrigued me for all the possibilities it represented, being able to sculpt and light scenes, thus crafting my own reference images, being able to make 3D drawings, and having animation tools at my fingertips. I don't consider myself either a photographer, a 3D artist, definitely not an animator, but Blender let me experiment and make things that I never thought possible. I now use it primarily to paint. Painting in draw mode feels very natural, and the fact that each stroke exists as its own separate entity that can be selected and modified and recolored. Game changer! I had no idea what I was missing, and now I could never go back. I've just finished my first batch of commissions for clients who have no connection to Blender, don't care what software I use as long as the final art is nice. And I made all of these pieces 100% within Blender because that is genuinely how I get the best results. I am so grateful for the grease pencil tool, and I hope that my channel can help other illustrators and painters take the leap. The community has been so welcoming, and it's a joy to be a part of it.
Blender is freedom to me at the moment. I spend a lot of my time working on other tools that dictate the way that I should do things or limits the scale of which I can operate. I recently finished a project for AMD, and this kind of product visualization has always been my long-term dream, and producing stills and video for this project was such an organic process. I really felt like a creator, not just an operator. Cycles was a huge enabler for producing video content for this project. I was able to render multiple shots in a single night on one GPU. When I'm not working, I like to build and design motorbikes. So I bought an absolute heap of a BMW R80 just before lockdown and stripped it down, did some 3D scanning, and with Blender designed my own version of this bike. So here's the version that I did in Blender. And this is the one that I built in lockdown. Blender and its development at the moment is opening up so many doors for me, so I just want to say thank you so much to the developers for your amazing work.
Hi, I'm Riley from Hong Kong. We at Krystal Institute are still working hard at teaching and promoting Blender in Hong Kong. Let's take a look. The first is our course tailored for adults, where we use Blender to teach them to make animation. Also, as many children in Hong Kong want to learn 3D techniques, we have prepared easy and clear learning materials for them to get started. By creating 3D models and animation, children will gain knowledge and have fun at the same time. Through the Train the Trainer program, our curricula will reach a wider audience of local students. For us, Blender is more than just a fancy tool for building 3D models. This open source software presents an opportunity for students of all ages to gain valuable skills they otherwise wouldn't be able to. Looking forward to sharing more of our development soon. See you next time!
Blender is my workbench. Last year, I got this instrument. Of course, I wanted to play it, but I also wanted to use it to control something. For this purpose, I made a divided pickup that captures the vibration of each string. First, I made a tool to wind the coils of the pickup. The frame was made with Blender and 3D printing. I assembled the tools and wound the coils. The large coil picks up the whole sound. This small coil is for divided pickup. make the circuit board, and assembled it. The prototype went well, so I designed the final model, reassembled it in the case that came from the 3D printing service. Let's check how it works. The sound is pretty good. But I need to practice more.
Blender is a fantastic storytelling tool. It offers everything you need in just one package to bring your ideas to reality with almost endless possibilities. And being on board for quite a while now, it's such a pleasure to see how far Blender has come over the years. Our humble mission at CG Boost is to give people a helping hand to make diving into this wonderful tool a bit easier so they can tell their own stories. Well, and I guess we had some success on this already. Many of our students went way beyond just following our courses. They added their own fresh ideas to their creations. Here's what our students have created, and for some of them, these are their first 3D projects. Enjoy!
Hi, I'm Pau, I'm a 3D artist from Barcelona, and I'm currently finishing up my degree on 3D animation and VFX, and I plan to be able to pretty soon put my foot on the 3D animation industry as a CG lighter. Now, I've had the chance to use Blender in a couple of commercial projects, but by far, my most favorite thing to do with Blender is creating emotion-packed renders. Now, creating worlds and telling engaging stories in 3D is by definition a pretty heavy task, but here's where Blender really makes a difference for me. See, once I have an idea and it works in my mind, I can just start working, and the fact that I can go from modeling to shading to sculpting to animation to rigging to lighting to compositing and back to modeling all in one place and just have it work not only speeds up my workflow but actually allows it in the first place. Now, another thing I love about making art with Blender is that you get the chance to be a part of this amazing community that not only helps you whenever you have problems, but also inspire you and make you discover new stuff that you didn't even thought it was possible. Like, for example, participating in November a couple of years ago has now given me the tools to tweak my lights with nodes and make cool effects that I now use in all of my lighting work and renders. And to finish up and going back to the Blender is thing, Blender to me feels like jamming with a great band or playing in a great team or riding an electric bike. It feels like you're in control, but you have all this power that it's helping you go forward. And as a creator, it feels amazing.
Blender is simply a game changer for me. Let me explain. I'm a professional car designer and we used to have very slow design process compared to other industries like concept art or game or movie industries. So for you it might even sound like a weird thing, but we used to use 3D for end result mostly. Like we used to sketch a lot and sketch again and put it on the digital and still work on 2D. And at the end, when we are convinced with the idea, we used to put it in 3D in a NURB software, which takes weeks to see the result finally. And that's only a couple years ago. It's not like, I'm not talking about 10, 20 years ago. And recently, thankfully, we started to catch up with other industries and we started to use polygonal softwares. For me and many other car designers, Blender is like a lifesaver, like a game changer, I can say. Because now we can use 3D in our creative process rather than just only the end result. We can put our ideas into 3D in 1 or 2 days already with cool materials and the efficiency of EV. So rather than keeping 2D and 3D separate processes, now we can enjoy the creativity in 3D. I started to use Blender around 3 years ago, and since then all my clients and my colleagues are impressed by the results of it. So I definitely look cooler, and I think Blender made me a better designer. So thanks to everybody who has even a little impact on this amazing software.
We at the Scientific Visualization Unit want to show life at the molecular and cellular level. This means at a scale about 10 times smaller than everyday life. We have started in the early 2000s, and at the beginning it was difficult. But in 2007 we discovered Blender, which was open source. So, besides the fact that it's free, we could actually introduce in the program the code necessary for our needs, like importing atoms and molecules with their chemical and physical features. It is only thanks to Blender if we have been able to produce the animations that you see. And especially we want to thank the Blender development team that also helped us, especially at the start. But this was the past. The future is Blender 3, and we have already started to work on it. And we hope to be able to show you something new in the not too distant future. So, stay tuned and happy blending!
Xin chào mọi người kìa, từ Châu Thành, tỉnh An Giang, Việt Nam.
Blender is. Okay, how can I even start? Blender is a lot of things. Not only a 3D software, it's also a 2D software. It's an entire community, an awesome one. And it's also a creator with Blender Studio. But for an artist, I feel like Blender is the power to create, but within everyone's reach. Not only because of the open source factor, but because in order to create something great, you really don't need a lot of softwares and resources and action machines and money. You just need your creativity and Blender and a computer.
And this applies to all kind of profiles, like mine, a passionate artist that is not really good at technology.
Like seriously, I'm not interested in dealing with overcomplicated technical stuff. It's just not my kind of profile. I just want to tell stories, and I feel like Blender is giving me all the tools that I need in order to do that in a user-friendly enough way so I can do this thing right here, which I'm very proud of. This is actually my animation reel, but with a more short film approach, let's say. It's a combination of 2D and 3D, all made in Blender. Isn't that cool? I could use this pencil for storyboard and planning. For the short, I could use the rigs from Blender Cloud or other resources. Some modeling basics, I could just model props and even downloading them from different websites. With animation, well, I'm an animator, so no problem. I'm obviously not a lighter, but with Eevee I played around with some lights and, well, it does the job. And for the 2D I use Grease Pencil, which I am in love with. I was able to play around with a lot of effects to find a style, like this noisy effect and the Sculpt tool. Oh my god, I live for the Sculpt tool. I could even edit and make some comp in the same software. And there you go. For once, this animator felt like technology was on her side and was able to tell her story. Happy ending! And the funny thing is that this project actually let me end up working with the actual Blender studio in this masterpiece. The experience was incredible and they are such an amazing team. And being there, I kind of realized how great is this that we are building. All from donations and support from users and corporations and Blender Clouders for the studio. So yep, Blender is a big project and it's getting bigger over time. So I hope it keeps growing more and more and I will definitely be there for that.